Earlier this week, convener of the #RevolutionNow campaign, Omoyele Sowore, alleged he was shot by a police officer at the Unity Fountain in Abuja. While the police has denied his claims and called his allegations untrue, he insists this was the case and is here to give us the latest. Good to have you, Omoyele Sowore. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Now, how are you feeling before we even ask you about what really happened? How are you feeling on the back of that experience on Monday?
I'm better. That's all I can tell you. When it comes to feelings, of course, I feel very terrible still.
Yes, hopefully we'll explore the takeaways from that experience. But for those who were disputing as to whether you were shot, because we saw the images on your thigh, and, you know, even from my perspective, it didn't look like a bullet wound, and there were some allegations that it was a bullet wound. Clarify for us, since we have you here, what actually happened?
Yeah, I was shot with a riot gun, which is a weapon that shoots a projectile into the air. But in this case, it was aimed directly at me at a very close range. It then tore through my lap on the right, and I was disabled and had to fall, as you can see in that video. And to prevent me from getting help, they started shooting tear gas all around me. I was shot by a police woman whose name is Hydera Altina Daniel. She's a CSP in the police. So there is no question about the fact that I was shot at close range, and I was injured and hospitalized in 2 hospitals in Abuja on that same day.
All right. The police has denied, that they actually shot at you. But be that as it may, are you going to seek legal redress over this incident?
I have not concluded the treatment yet, so the issue of what kind of redress I will seek is not what I will disclose now. But of course, we are discussing this amongst ourselves as to what is best to be done. But what is important is not to let this distract us, so that we can focus on the task at hand, which is to get rid of this serious level of impunity that has become the face of leadership in Nigeria today.
Okay, let's compare the reasons given for why you were, since they don't say they shot you, but why they sought to discourage you from being at the Unity Fountain, and the reason you perceive that you were attacked. Can you help us understand what reason have they given you so far for having, I'm using the word loosely, assaulted you, and what reason do you feel is behind the assault?
I think they have, it's very clear, the government since 2019 in particular targeted me for elimination. You remember I was abducted from a hotel room in Lagos on August 3rd, 2019, kept in detention, solitary confinement for about 5 months. My lawyers went to court, that's Barrister Femi Falana, and they granted me bail on 2 occasions, but the government decided that they would not honor the order of the court. I should also inform you that I was flown from Lagos to Abuja in one of the Air Force jets that recently crashed. You know, I could have been a victim of that as well. And when I was granted bail eventually, when they grudgingly allowed me to leave detention, they came in open court, armed to the teeth, to abduct me, with the hope that something would happen that would lead to my death in court. When they didn't succeed in doing that, I went for a protest at the National Assembly. They shot at me and destroyed the shield, the side shield in my car. You know, arrested some people on that occasion. Following that, they attacked me on December 31st, 2020, when we went for a march heralding the new year, January 1st, and I was detained for 11 days. That was how I incurred the gash over my nose. A police officer named CSP Abu Kadr also headbutted me and almost broke my nose. So I spent 11 days in detention in January. And this is just one of those several attempts on my life since I've been restricted to Abuja by a judge, which is unheard of, that a citizen of Nigeria will be restricted to a city for exercising his rights. So that is the reason. They want to keep doing this until such a time that they can become successful in physically eliminating me through these attacks. And I'm sure that beyond this, they have tried several other means, including, of course, as you know, frustrating the so-called treason trial in court and ensuring that I don't get justice. Even at the Court of Appeal, whenever we go to the court, it's one, they give us, different kinds of excuses. Let me tell you, Nigerians should understand by now that these guys are a bunch of criminally minded, wicked souls who don't care about anybody. They don't care about you, they don't care about me, they don't even care about their people as much as people think. And we have a task to put an end to their shenanigans. That is something we must do. And anybody who is aiding and abetting the process, as we've had in the past, will one day face justice. If justice is not brought to them, they'll be brought to justice. That is definitely clear. Because I have been through this before. We had the same kind of, aggressive leadership. I won't say rulership in this country under the military. Babangida, Abacha, and how did it end? That should remind Muhammadu Buhari that this will not end well for him.
All right, very good. You've just highlighted a series of police onslaught against you, and from your explanation, that might not end anytime soon. But in that regard, will that discourage you in any way regarding your activist roles?
Never. It will never discourage me. This is something I've done for over 30 years. And it's sad to say, but I'll say it here because I often tell people, I never thought I would live to be 30 years old because they've been assaulting me since my university days. I was expelled twice from the University of Lagos. I was almost killed in 1994 when they sponsored campus gangs after me. And being in detention in several parts of Nigeria. And in some of those detention places, I was tortured, physically tortured. I remember being detained at an Air Force guard room for 7 days. I almost died in Yola, Adamawa State, when I completed my NYC and I was about to collect the discharge certificate. I was arrested. Till today, the Nigerian government did not give me my NYC discharge certificate, even though I completed my NYC in Yola in 1996. I was arrested and detained for 7 days after I completed my NYC. What is sad is to, see that after some 20-something years of so-called democratic rule, which I think we never had democracy. Morons just hijacked our democratic rights. That's why I typically call it morontocracy. We just can't believe that this will be happening now, and that these are being perpetrated by people who claim to have changed or who are Democrats, and they're being supported complicitly by even the civilian elites. Because I remember when I was charged to court by the regime, falsely accused of money laundering, falsely accused of all kinds of crimes I did not commit. They were represented by 23 lawyers led by a senior advocate of Nigeria who eventually withdrew because he was embarrassed. And they were arguing in court that I committed crimes I didn't commit. So we also have people in the media who promote some of these abuses. I remember in this last one, some TV station claimed that I was not shot at, that I was acting.
Okay, Sowore, if I may come in just to say that from what you've described of your background and the experiences you've had, some might describe you as a hardened activist. But is it possible for you to see from the point of view of the security operatives? Your lawyer, Mr. Inibehe Effiong, claimed that you were at the Unity Fountain to mass mobilize protesters ahead of the nationwide protest of insecurity on June 12th. Can you appreciate that you're causing the kind of unease you might be causing the authorities at a time when there's so many jitters to do with insecurity already?
Well, it won't be correct to say that although yes, there's a protest plan for June 12th, that's next Saturday. But this particular protest was a peaceful protest called by my lead lawyer, Barrister Femi Falana, to protest against insecurity in the country. It was a peaceful protest. You cannot suspend the rights of Nigerians to protest. You can't stop it. Even if there's no constitution. Under the military rule, when practically they were ruling, with and by decrees, we were protesting on the streets of Nigeria. So why would anybody even argue in favor of discomfort against the authorities when the real discomfort is the incompetence of our authorities to protect lives and property in the country? So why would anybody argue in favor of that? How can you inconvenience anyone when you are asking for people to be protected? Prior to that protest, I was also there for a protest in which I spoke, openly against the abduction of the students in Afaka, the students of School of Forestry in Afaka, Kaduna State. We marched from there to the National Assembly, and the next day the students were released. How did that inconvenience anybody? I've never engaged in violent protests before. It is government that's always engaged in violence against myself and my colleagues who peacefully protest. And, the people that really inconvenience our country and our people and threaten them, they are offered positions in the army. Just last week, I was told that over 1,200 Boko Haram members graduated they were just freshly trained and inducted into the Nigerian army. Those are the people inconveniencing the country. The bandits who abduct students and pupils, what do you do to them? You offer them ransoms that are in billions of naira. You don't go after those ones. You don't go after kidnappers. You don't go after Boko Haram members. You go after decent members of society who are asking for peaceful means or asking the leadership in the country to rise up to the occasion.
All right, Omoyele, if I may just come in, please, just want your thoughts on this. Nigeria's Twitter ban, looking at the circumstances behind it, what's the implication?
Implication of what? Please.
Of the Twitter ban. Nigeria's just, made an announcement of a ban in Twitter for some time. What do you make of that scenario, especially, being a stakeholder in the media as well?
I think the Nigerian leadership is just embarrassing the people of Nigeria. And this is the reason why I have said since 2019 that, revolution is the solution to this problem. Because how do you ban Twitter, which is a means for peaceful engagement by citizens in your country, when you are not in North Korea, you are not China? And they should ask China, North Korea, India, and those petty dictators around the world who have banned these microblogging sites, Twitter, Facebook. Let them tell them their experience. It's not going to work. I'm still on Twitter. Majority of Nigerians are still on Twitter. And by the end of today, a lot of people would have bypassed the firewalls, the weak firewalls that are put in place to prevent the use of Twitter. It's not going to work. But this is a problem with Nigeria. You have analog-based, thinking, running a country of digitally minded citizens. It's just like what Professor PLO Lumumba said in Kenya, that people with ideas have no power, and people with power have zero ideas. That is what is plaguing Nigeria, and that's why Nigerians must rise up to reject this kind of leaders with Stone Age mentality, who actually believe idiotically that they can ban interaction and engagement by citizens who are disgruntled. Let me say one more thing before you jump in, that in the 90s, most of African countries that experienced civil war had only one radio station and one TV station. They prevented their citizens from having outlets where they can vent. So they should also learn from that. And I hope, we don't allow them to drag us into war, that we instead drag them off, out of our decent spaces.
Indeed. And on that note, Omoyele Sowore, activist, politician, journalist, I'd like to thank you for being a part of the show. It's good to have you with us.